Creating a business is an immensely challenging task. Over the last couple of years, I've learned a ton of different things that don't work. And today, I just want to give you a few quick takeaways, a few quick learning things that I wish I knew going back a couple of years. One of the questions I ask on the podcast, The After Hours Entrepreneur, is if you had 10 minutes with yourself 10 years ago, what would you say? But what I want to do today is give myself or you advice that I wish I knew when I first started podcasting, entrepreneurship, and digital media creation. So let's get into my top tips to myself 2 years ago. Let's go. I knew going into my entrepreneurial endgame that I really wanted to focus on the new forms of communication, specifically social media. How can I create more content for social media in less time? I knew that was important. And I believe that the best way to do this is to host some sort of show. An interview style show, I think, is best. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. So I think I got that right. A video podcast, at least for me, has been hugely beneficial. Going into this, I also knew that there are going to be many times during the process where you just want to give up. You're not getting the downloads you would expect. You're not getting the endorsement deals you want to expect. Things are taking longer than you expect. I knew this was going to be a thing going in. But what I really wish I knew was when is the right time to pivot and when is the right time to just double down and persevere with what you're doing. To me, I think that as a creative entrepreneur, this is the biggest challenge that we need to face. When is it time to pivot and try something new? When is it time to double down on what we're doing and understanding that as it gets better, it's going to grow, when it's going to hit that hockey stick? And this is a difficult thing, but with over 100 interviews with top performing entrepreneurs, I came to realize that it's really about having a vision. It's about knowing, where am I going? What is the end game? What do I want my life to look like? And making decisions along the way that are in line with that vision. And it can be really easy to lie to yourself in the moment thinking that this is the right move now. For example, you might take on a client that's just not a great fit because you just need some cash. And you realize that it's not going to achieve that final vision that you're working towards. In some cases, you just have to do this because you need to keep the lights on, you need to pay the bills. And other times you're doing it just because you're just trying to grow your book, or you're taking on a sponsorship just so you can make a little cash. But I think that type of short-sighted thing, you definitely want to be careful with. But I think that one of the things that I could have done a better job on when it comes to being clear on what my vision is leveraging these relationships that I've been creating along the way more proactively. So this is my second takeaway here, especially for all you podcasters and video experts that understand the importance of a show. And what I think is the most important facet of these shows is the relationships that you're building along the way. It's the people, it's the connections. And at least for the After Hours Entrepreneur, I was releasing 3 episodes a week. And that's an immense amount of work, producing that many episodes. And quite frankly, not only did it overwhelm me to the point where I just felt like I couldn't keep up with everything, but B, the relationships that I was trying to create with these people suffered because I wasn't able to dedicate enough time, enough energy to these interviews. And it's because of that, and because of this first reason that I discussed, what's my vision, that I've reduced the amount of interviews from 3 down to 2 and now down to 1. So I'm only going to be producing 1 interview episode of the After Hours Entrepreneur moving forward. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to allow me to create a much higher quality show, higher quality guests. I think it's going to be a win for everyone. It's also going to get me to that vision where I'm not just like chasing my tail all the time. So again, I'd like to hear from you. Leave in the comments below. What is something that you've been challenged by? A pivot that you knew you wanted to make, but you weren't sure? I'd love to hear from you. Leave it in the comments below. The third thing I would tell myself, if I could go back 2 years, would be clarity is king. Be as clear as possible. If you're watching my content, you understand how passionate I am about this. The more clear you are with your messaging, with your images, with your branding, the better. I felt like I tried to be too clever. And I'm a clever guy. I like to think outside the box. But I think that cleverness actually hurt my ability to grow more quickly. Whereas being clear, leveraging keywords, leveraging search is really important. Granted, when I first started my journey, I didn't fully understand these concepts. I've learned over the time, which is why if I could go back in a time machine, I would tell myself, Mark, focus on clarity in your titles and your branding across the board. And the fourth thing that I would tell my past self would be to focus on developing standard operating procedures. Getting down on pen and paper or in a spreadsheet, in my case, listing out all the different tasks that go into your daily processes or your weekly processes. Get clear on your routine, get clear on your standard operating procedures. Whenever you're bringing on help or bringing on a partner, make sure that you're getting clear on what their standard operating procedures are. Because by doing that, it makes it so much easier to outsource and bring in new people. It makes it so much easier to identify places where you might want to use a software to improve steps. I would really try to tell myself that, Mark, you need to be focused on all the procedures and all the kind of the boring stuff that goes into the processing of what you're trying to do. Because at this point, the amount of procedures that go into each podcast episode is extremely complex. There's a lot of different moving parts. I've got 7 team members. I've got dozens of different tech pieces that are involved. And now as the agency grows and I bring on more clients, well, now we got to duplicate that and triplicate that. The more accurate, the more clear the standard operating procedures, the better. So Mark, get on it. Finally, I'd tell Mark, you're about to start on a journey that's going to be scary. You don't know what the future is going to hold, but just focus. Keep focusing on being a little bit better than yesterday. It's not that complicated. I love this quote by Bill Gates. People overestimate what they can get done in 1 year, but underestimate what they can get done in 10 years. And that, I think, is the key to what this thing is all about. This building a business, podcast, show, entrepreneurial venture. As you're growing this out, you need to really focus on what are the small wins that I can keep piling up day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Make sure that they're aligned with your vision and then double down on what's working. Make sure that you're charting enough time out to keep trying new things, but never lose sight of what that vision is. What are you doing all this for? Because building your own prison is not what you want. You want to build towards a future that's going to work for you and bring you happiness. Because let's face it, you're going to be spending a lot of time doing this. Anyway, Mark, keep up the great work. I will catch you next time. And by the way, if you haven't yet, make sure that you subscribe to the channel for more fresh content. Catch you next time. Peace. Hey, by the way, if you liked this video, you're going to love this one. So make sure that you smash this link right here so you don't get left behind. See ya.